Yeah, this is welcome anybody who hops on. We do have live chat. We can see if you guys have any questions. I'm John Clay Burnett. I have Real Cast Productions, and I also work with Motion University. I'm on today with Judd Brannon. Brannon, well, give us, I was going to give the name of your company, but maybe go ahead and just give us your own intro and your company.
Judd Brannon, Brannon Pictures, as creative as that is, that's kind of what it's been for a few years now. So I've thought about rebranding, but Brannon Pictures is what it's been. So it's been good.
Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah.
We just wanted to get on and chat about some recent projects, most of which were filmed before the quarantine. I think both of these were filmed before the quarantine stuff happened. Just to talk about some of our processes. I was chatting with Judd the other day and saw some of the stuff he was working on. I'm like, dude, this is really cool. I want to hear more about this. And I thought, well, why not get on a live call and share with more people? And I know other folks are, or a lot of other folks have a lot more time these days. And so to give people some interesting, encouraging, perhaps educational, we can all learn and grow together through this. So maybe we have Judd was sending me a question just a minute ago. Maybe we can problem solve together or share something that someone who's watching hasn't heard before and make it a group experience. So anyway, welcome to anybody who's on. We'll be on for, I don't know, maybe an hour. Judd's going to talk about a project. I have a project I did last year that we'll chat about, and it's just a pretty relaxed live stream. We're going to poke and prod. It's just a general conversation here. So Judd does a lot of music videos. Well, he does a lot of different projects, but he has a project that he did music video for a specific group that he does a lot of projects for. It was actually in competition this year at the Christian Review Film Festival. Am I right? The one in the barn?
That is right. I actually had two in the festival, but they're both connected in terms of the location. So I can walk you through that.
Cool. I'll let you jump off and start, and I'd love to hear more about your project. And I think we got some screen share stuff. So we kind of have like 5 questions, and we'll work through how you got the project, some pre-production, production stuff, and then we can get on even post-production workflow and just kind of chat about some of those, and then any key lessons or takeaways or things you want to do different or that you liked, want to make sure you do next time, just that kind of stuff. And I'll let you kick it off from here, and I'll be inquisitive as we go.
Sure. So the project you're talking about is called Alive. It was done with a band called This Hope, and This Hope is a bunch of 5 guys, all from Alaska, from the same city, who started singing together. And when they realized they ran out of places to tour in Alaska, there's only so many places you can tour, they moved to Georgia, and their home base was my church. And so they're never there. They're never there on a Sunday unless it's a random weekend, but usually they're out on the road. They have a tour bus, and they're all over, California to the East Coast, all the way here, touring. And so basically my relationship with them is, and I'll keep it really brief, 15 years ago? Oh, goodness, 15 years ago we met, and I told them, I said, I really like one of your songs. I'd love to make a music video. And they said, no, we don't need that. And I said, well, no, I had this great idea. They said, yeah. And they imagined me as, with a high camera in the backyard filming a music video. And so what I did is I wrote them a script. I started with a script, and I said, and that gave them a chance to visualize it. Right. So I wrote it out, with the lyrics and the teleplay of the song, and the song told a story. And so the song's called Break My Plans. And so I wrote the story about this guy, and he's going to prison. It's a true life story, but I kind of wrote out the different shots for them. And they said, that's great, but how do we pay for it? And they didn't really have a way to do that either. So we got some donations, that sort of thing. And we made a music video, 2 days. We shot with a camcorder, HVX camcorder with these little screw-on Pro Mist filters to kind of give it that film look. And this was even before the Red Rock, before that whole deal. But it turned out well. And what we realized, and this is the way with filmmaking, John, what we realized is videos have a greater chance to, because I came out of the live event world. That was a one-time only, and It was over. You know, what we realized is that with making videos, they were seeing that they were able to use it every week at their concert to show it, and people were, you know, they were being impacted by the video. You know, videos don't save anybody, right? But they're a tool that God uses, and you know, heaven forbid something happened to me. I can't be in all those places. So, but the video can. And so I learned from that experience. And that's what's kind of started me on this journey of making more films to reach people. So the story with them is, real quick, back to them. So now I've done 4 or 5 videos. The last one we did was called Alive, and it was in a barn. I don't know if you have any questions, or I'll keep going.
Keep going. No,
I'll keep going.
Well,
you know, we haven't shown the video. I don't know if we need to show it here or.
Well, we can talk about it and we'll get into it and show it at the end. But I saw your first one. You're pretty hard on yourself though, man. Like I saw the first one that you did, and I was impressed. You have some like really creative moments and moves and stuff you did in there, and it's not near as old and terrible as you make it out to be. You did nice work for it. I did a good job of restoring it to HD, but you know, there were some fun shots. We had a little jib, little 6 foot, you know, jib, so we were able to go up and down. And, you know, that sort of thing. I think we had a steady cam, but it was more like a weighted thing, you know, that kind of floated. So it wasn't like a gimbal or anything like that. So we were able to do some fun shots. Of course, you know, like any filmmaker, I go back and I'm like, man, why did I do 3 shots from the same angle there? You know, like, you know, things like that. Yeah. So, the band comes to me about sometime last year, and they say they want to make a video for this song called Stay, which we also had at the festival. And we went to this house. I called my local, so this is a suggestion for people that are want to make film. They call their local Chamber of Commerce. So here in Cherokee County, Georgia, that's where I'm at, a little bit north of Atlanta, we have a local film office, right? And it's a part-time person. And I called her and I said, hey, I want to make a music video. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for sort of a you know, farmhouse, but I want like white walls and a white house. I want it to be real clean and real simple. And so she got on her books and she looked through and she found me a farmhouse. And she said, here's one. And they shot a Netflix show there. And I'll call him. And so she called him and he agreed. We met with the homeowner. And we're not near as, I mean, it's just me and a couple other people with a few lights. They had like tractor trailers on the Netflix. So for me, you know, and it turns out we ended up going to the same church. Yeah. And, you know, we knew all these people in common. So it was really a great experience. So we shot this music video at his farmhouse called, this video called Stay. Go ahead. Well, I was going to post a link to the Break My Plans video in the comments.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It's on your YouTube, man. It's
I know.
Okay. All right. So anybody that's watching or watches later, there's a comment there. You can check it out. It's actually really cool. I'm going to back up real quick. This is a little, as I watched through it, I was really impressed with how you brought the historical back into the group and they're singing. And then you like when you did different scene setups, like as the song progressed, and then you like even merged the two in the last. And I thought you did a really nice.
Yeah, I kind of broke that wall there at the end.
Yeah, it was really cool though. I was like, man. All right. Anyway, I was impressed. All right, back to your.
That was a fun video because it had storytelling in it, which is what I really enjoy. I like having an actor and set up a shot and tell a story, and I really enjoy doing videos for these guys. But I love gravitating more towards storytelling, right? You know, some type of drama. So with this recent one that we made called Alive, that we shot in the barn, even though it's a performance video, we tried to have a story, right? We see the guys show up at the barn. You know, every scene as a filmmaker has an arc, right? Even if it's a 2-minute scene, it has an arc. So even with this music video, it has an arc. They show up at the barn, they rehearse, then they're preparing for the concert, and then they perform the concert. We have all the extras come in, that sort of thing. So, yeah, so we're at this white farmhouse shooting this video called Stay, and we see this barn over, you know, and we weren't planning to shoot there. We walked into the barn, and we're looking around, and it was that morning sunlight coming through the beams, You know, we don't have a hazer with us yet. We don't have a smoke machine, but just natural light poking through and all this beautiful rays of sunlight.
Wow.
You know, and this old barn with the textured wood and all these, he had all these, you know, signs from restaurants and just, you know, old Coke machines and things like that. So it was just, we walked in there, me and one of the band members, and we looked around, we looked at each other immediately. We're like, this is the next video. And we were back a month later at that same house. And, but the barn was full of stuff. It was just like packed. You couldn't hardly walk in it. And he goes, you know what? He says, I do a barn dance once a year in our barn for the community, and we clean the whole barn out. And we're like, okay, when is that happening? You know? And so he had his barn dance on a Saturday, and we were in there like on a Tuesday. You know, we planned it around his schedule. So that's another thing that you can do as a filmmaker sometimes, is work with a venue, work with a place, and try to work around their schedule. And that worked, you know, so when we got there, it was clean, it was pristine, it was ready for us. We didn't have to do a whole lot of prep, you know? So that was great. Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any pictures or any BTS pictures?
Oh
or?
my gosh, I wish I did. But I can pull up, I have the music video here. I can pull up like the first image. Speakers down. Hold on one second. Let me unlock my keyboard here. Let me mute the song so it doesn't get loud. Okay. So let me go to that. Here we go. All righty. So I'm going to share. Can I share my screen here, John?
Yeah, and you can do include computer sound.
Yep. I'll share it. Oh no, I'm not even going to play sound here. I just tried to show you.
Okay.
Show you. So I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the inside of the barn. So it's a two-story barn, and here's the guys sitting around on hay bales and old chairs and stools and that sort of thing.
And so how much more cleaning out did you have to do? I mean, how strategic were you with some of the signage and stuff that's in there? You've got a Coca-Cola, you've got
that. It looked exactly like what you're seeing, other than we grabbed a few hay bales,
right,
and spread around, and we put a little bit of hay on the floor to cover up oil stains and that sort of thing, because he had lawnmowers. That sort of thing.
Nice.
That was pretty much it. So now, you talk about setup. Look at this. So I got 5 guys in a room. We're shooting with a C300, and all I have is one key light. That's it. So I did the half the day shoot with a key light from this corner over here where my mouse is moving.
Yeah.
Sitting back there, and it's like I think a 2K up, pretty high, like an Airy 2K, just a single light. That's it. So, yeah.
And so that other beam is the sunlight coming in?
Right here?
Yeah.
That's a little bit of movie magic right there.
Oh.
That's a little visual effects.
Oh.
So I did have a lens, like a you know, a light beams pack. The problem is, once you do that one time, you gotta keep it going the entire video, so you can get carried away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was talking about with, let me make sure I mute that. I thought it was muted, but I'm hearing it for some reason, and I don't know why. For the life of me, I can't figure out why it's playing audio, since every channel is muted.
Oh, you know, you got one there. There you go. That one's that. Yeah. That one there. There you go.
That's weird. I didn't. Okay. All right. So, let's see.
How many cameras did you have?
So, okay. So, good question. So we had the C300 that our DP brought. So I had a guy named JR that I brought in. My normal guy wasn't available, and so I brought this guy named JR in, and he comes out of the film world. So he was the cameraman on the movie Creed, like with Stallone, like the entire movie.
Wow.
And he's from Philadelphia, I guess, and he moved here to Georgia. Oh. And I know him. He lives in my town, and so he came out, and he's got kind of his sort of, you know, everybody's got their own style. His is mostly off the shoulder. That's sort of how he's used to running the cameras, off the shoulder. He did have a Dana dolly, so we were able to shoot with a Dana dolly and off his shoulder. So this is a Dana dolly shot here. But most of this stuff, I'll let it play a little bit. Most of this is Dana dolly, as you can see.
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Right.
But all this is just, like I said, natural light, except for that one 2K. Now, one thing as a filmmaker, and especially these music videos, you have to be prepared to be flexible. So I had a plan for the day. I said, okay, we're going to shoot verse one down here, down at the bottom of the barn. We're going to shoot that first, and then we're going to move up to the loft of the barn to shoot verse 2.
Yeah.
And so we got about, I don't know, half of verse 1 done, and we looked at the lighting, and I'm going to jump up there real quick.
Yeah.
Let me get there. Sorry, I'm making everybody sick.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, I see some of them.
Okay, here we go. Verse 2.
Oh, I see.
So that's all natural light. Everything coming in is, and are you seeing a full screen, or are you seeing my whole Premiere thing?
I'm seeing the whole Premiere.
Okay, I'll try to make it bigger there.
Yeah, there you go. That's
there
cool.
we go.
Yep.
So that's all natural light. So when the sun broke the clouds and it moved at that right position, all those beams started coming in. So we had to stop immediately. Like, let's go, guys. We got to get upstairs right now.
Right.
Because we had a hazer, but it, you know, when you're in a barn light size, you got to have a pretty good hazer. And ours just wasn't able to cut it. Like, it just wasn't able to really. I ran it at full all day long, and I could never really see it, except for this, which was very natural.
Yeah, yeah.
So we jumped up to the loft. There's not a whole lot of room to move around. So this is my drone. I've got the drone going here in the barn.
Wow.
I got one shot out of it. It did not want to fly in a metal barn. Like, the magnetic interference was just like.
Sure.
But I got it up there, and it got one shot out of it.
Nice.
The rest of this is most off the shoulder, so I'll just let it play here.
Mm-hmm.
So most of this is off the shoulder, but you can see the light rays are just beautiful, you know, like this. So
how many, with just one camera, how many times are you having them sing? Are you doing the whole verse all the way through?
Doing that whole verse. That's right. We're doing that whole verse 2. Now, when we used to start, we'd shoot the whole song, and we learned this is not the way to do it. So now what we'll do is we'll pick moments. So this was the entire verse 2 up here in the loft.
Right.
So we just decided that's where it was going to happen. And originally, I was going to have part of the verse in one place and part in another. When we saw those beautiful light rays come in, we're just like, this is it.
Right.
I had the guys go up there. Everybody kind of find their blocking, you know, that sort of thing, kind of lay out where everybody is really quickly. And we start to sing. You know, we didn't move the key light, I don't think, much. We might have pointed it up there a little bit.
Yeah. Wow.
And then JR goes to town. Now, you asked about cameras. I did have a GH5.
Okay.
And I did have like a Sony A7, I think, maybe on the gimbal.
And you used all 3 of those?
We did. So I had another guy. Okay, so I had my main guy and I had a second guy. The second guy had hit the Sony and the GH5. He had kind of handheld and the gimbal.
Right.
And he's just kind of B-camming it, you know. The problem is when you go back and look at the footage with the C300, it looks so good that it's just hard to match that other stuff to it.
Right.
And so those shots are used few and far between.
I see. I was going to say you did a good job matching with 3 different cameras.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of them. As a matter of fact, I shot a video for these guys last week. We with our social distancing, we went to the mountains. We weren't around anybody else. And yeah, they I lost my train of thought there. We had different cameras. We had a Sony F7. Is that right? F5, F7.
Well, either one. Yeah.
Yes, I think it was 7. And he shot in log. And then I had my GH5, but I'm just not able to use the GH5 very much. Like, there's only a couple of shots. One is I don't have the NDs for it. So it just, the depth of field or the shallow depth or whatever, it just didn't match. And so I find that I'm really trying to edit that video mostly with the Sony. So back to this one, same thing. I shot mostly with the C300.
Okay. And you're shooting a C-Log with that one as well?
With C-Log, that's right. Now, later in this video, so we finished verse 2, We go back and shoot verse 1 on the floor. We kind of have to go back to that setup. And then the bridge of the concert, like I said, we're telling a story is the guys setting up for a concert. So I just said, guys, start setting up for the concert. So they started bringing their speakers in, their soundboard, and we just videotaped them doing that sort of thing.
Right.
And there's only a handful of shots. So, okay. So then what we did is we planned it out. We knew we wanted extras for the concert, and we knew most people would be off work in the evening. So we brought the extras in at, say, 4 or 5 o'clock.
Right.
We staged them outside until we were ready.
Right. Just
like you would do on any feature.
Right.
They signed waivers for, all that kind of stuff. And then they came in. And so it was great because then they were able to be part of a live concert. So we're almost shooting it live. The speakers and everything worked. We're playing the music. The guys are singing. But then the crowd was able to sing and get in it too.
So how are you recording sound though? Is this for the music video, is it still, did you just come back and just lay that video, the live video on top of the pre-recorded track? Or how did you include any of the extras in their participation? How was the sound?
I wanted to, but it wasn't real feasible. So we didn't really use, I don't think so. Let me look at the timeline. But I'm pretty sure we didn't use any audio from the actual people because we didn't have a reliable way we weren't really set up to record that. So our recording is basically just the waveform, just the audio, in-camera audio from the C300. And then I would just match that waveform up to the actual track.
Right.
There has been some times where we've went in and added in extra sounds. Like if it's a drone, we might add in birds or that sort of thing.
Right.
And that's always fun. The video I'm doing this week, the guy's walking and he's stepping on leaves. And so I'm probably going to add in some crunchy sound.
Sure.
That sort of thing. But the crowd was able to get into it. And
where did you find the people for the crowd?
We went to our old friend's social media. So we just sent it out. Okay. The guys have a fairly good following. I have friends. We kind of all posted. Yeah. And it was kind of just, you just kind of like, we think we have about 50 coming, Sure. And so we had a fairly good sized crowd. Obviously, like anything else, if you've shot live stuff, you try to make it look full.
Yeah.
So, we're going to push everybody to the front of the room. And if I'm shooting behind them, that sort of thing, we're going to always try to frame it in a way that it looks full.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's see. We had a question come in. Andrew, hey, Andrew's watching. We've had a pretty consistent number of folks here watching.
Awesome.
Watching. Yeah. How do you plan out your music videos? What's your process in pre-production? So we did cover a little bit of that, but is there anything else that comes to mind on planning? How much of this you said you had some stuff thought of, like you wanted to go to the...
So this one I was very specific about in terms of verse 1, verse 2, bridge, chorus, and what each thing is going to be so that we're not... Because the problem is if you don't plan that out, you overshoot. You just overshoot or you don't shoot the right stuff. So, for example, the one that we just shot, it was fairly well thought out. Let me go back. There's a song called "Forgive" in the movie Champion that I made a few years ago. These guys wrote the song. So one of the band members comes to me and he says, "I've written a song for your movie," and it fit really well, And so, so we went to Nashville. We recorded the. I turn my screen? Is my screen share off now?
No, I turned off the screen share so we can see you talking.
Good.
We can see you talking now.
Perfect. So one of the guys, so we went to Nashville. We recorded the song, in Nashville. It's like a full recording with strings and everything. But the movie got out. We didn't ever have time to make the music video. So we made 4 music videos for Champion, but we didn't make one for their song. It just didn't work out, timing. But they wanted to get a music video. So after Champion came out, we decided we're going to make a music video. But a little bit of our planning process, I have to plan around their tour schedule, right? They go to California for 2 weeks. They go to Alaska. They go to different places. We found a date, but we had no plan, right? We just picked a location, picked the song, but we had no plan. And we went and shot, and it turned out okay. You know, I don't want them to hear this. It turned out good. But you know, we just didn't plan like things like time of day. So it was like these guys are standing there in the heat and they're just baking and they're sweating and they don't look good. Yeah. And of course I don't have the proper gear flags to flag them to make it a soft light. So then in color correction, I have to like give it this, you know, like desaturate look. I have to give it like a different type of look to be able to work with. Do you know what I'm saying? You have to get creative. So anytime you plan, it's always going to go better, right? So this barn shoot called Alive, we really planned it out well. I actually went over and did pre-pro, right? So I went over the day before and I pre-lit the barn, right? So I took the hazer over there, I took string lights, I took LED lights, all that with a lighting guy, and we pre-lit everything. So that was our step in planning. Right. And then we had a schedule for the day, and I usually have one of our volunteers. So we usually have somebody that will come and do music playback. Somebody will do art direction. You know, there's usually somebody doing like makeup, and I'll usually pick one of those people to just say, you're the AD, you got to keep me on schedule, because if not, I'll shoot this Dana Dolly shot 8 times, you know, and there's no need to shoot it 8 times. So I have to literally just say, somebody, you got to, here's the schedule, and I have it printed out, and I say, you know, by this time we need to be doing this, 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 and this. You know, we need a break here. We've got to eat. If we don't eat, we're going to crash later. So we've got to eat at this. So having deadlines for those things really help you plan. So I don't know if that answers your question. But.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really helpful stuff.
So so I was saying, even on smaller shoots like this, you need an AD. You need somebody to keep you on schedule and on task. Even if it's, you know, your spouse or whatever, you just need somebody. You know, I've picked a teenager to do it before, to say, hey, be a jerk to me, come up and tell me that you got to stop. And sometimes I'll tell them, I know, I'll get it, give me a second, but it's a good reminder.
Yes, it does. It just helps you. It helps you make sure you're able to get the stuff that you know you want to get. And part of that working well is, like you said, you make the schedule though. So you have a pretty good guess of how much time you actually need to get the things done. And then it's just having somebody remind you, because you get, and as a creative, you can get lost in it and you lose track of time. And you're just like, oh goodness, I've got 5 minutes left. And you're like, I just need to, and you're able to then adjust and make whatever you need to do to make that shot happen, and then move on to the next one. So you'd end up killing the whole project. Yeah. No, that's good.
And you know, with also with talent, you have to be aware, like I'll wear those guys out, you know, like their performance will not be great. Even though they're lip syncing, if I make them do it over and over and over, by the end of the day, they look tired, you know.
Well, that's another reason not to shoot the whole thing all the way through, then to break it up into segments. That way you still get some fresh, you know, approach to some of the new sections when you come to filming those.
That's right.
Yeah. Talk to me about post a little bit. How do you go about, do you do multicam? Do you stack them all up? I saw you had, we can go back and share your program there again. I saw you had some different color markers.
I'm probably not do things as well as you know, as well as you do on that. So when I first started this years ago, that's what I would do. I would stack everything, but also overshot everything, like I said. So I'd have like 30 layers, and then I'd be muting, and you know, it's just like,
that's brutal.
And I tried on this one that I did this week. I only had like 8 takes of the first one, and I stacked them, but I just didn't like that. For me, I didn't like that process. So what I've done on this recent one, and what I did on this Alive video, is I literally just watch the take and I say, oh, that's a really nice moment, you know, and I'll generally just pull that down to the timeline.
Yeah.
And then I'll go through the next take and I say, you know, that's a really nice moment, and I'll pull it in. It doesn't always work, but generally I can fill a lot of that timeline that way. The other thing that I have to be cognizant of is I got 5 guys. So I have to, like, it's not like you have one artist. Man, if I had one artist, man, every take would be them and it'd be great. But I have to think about, you know, Gene, Tim, Micah, Daniel, Jonathan. Yeah. And, oh, wait, I've just shown him twice. I got to go back to this guy. Like, I have to think about it. And then I also have to think about close up, medium shot, wide shot, whole group, back to medium shot. Oh, now it'd be great to have the sun or something, like some sort of lens flare. And then, okay, now I got to go back. So I have to think through that stuff.
Is there any reason you don't do multicam with it and just be able to choose them all that way? Have you done that before at all?
Done that much? Yeah, I have. Okay, so I have done that on some multicam shoots where we're shooting 4 or 5 cameras. I have edited that way, yes, but I've never done it that way for the music video. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think part of it is a lot of times we won't always pick the song up in the same place. We'll pick it up in different places, and I don't know. The other challenge with this most recent one was we were in the woods and we didn't have a very loud speaker. And so my computer won't even synchronize based on waveform. I have to just go in. I have to go in and add 35 decimals of gain, and then be able to listen to like some sort of like keyword and say,
right,
and mark it. Mark my endpoint. And usually the process is once I get done editing this whole video, I'll send it to them, and I'll send them with time code burn-in, and they'll say, yeah, that one needs to roll by 2 frames. This one needs to go this way, because they just know their mouse and how it matches better than I can perceive it. So
yeah. I mean, it's something you might consider, because I've done it before too, where they have it broken up and there's sections even later. It is a problem if you don't have consistent waveforms to match it to and sync to. But I've found Premiere will, even if it's later in the song, it's actually pretty good at finding where in the whole piece it actually belongs. And then I still segment the multicam like on verse 1 or whatever your setups are, and you do like, just say 8 takes or 8 angles or something like this. Now I'm getting complicated in the way I would end up doing it. To help simplify, because you may have multiple takes from multiple angles, and so you could still end up with tons and tons of tracks tall in a multicam, and that gets complicated too. A way to simplify that is per angle, you can go through and edit which one you like to make, and then you just leave that in a track, and then it'll play consistently as one camera angle. But it's, if you like the first half of this one, and then you did a second take and you like the back half, you can still match those in. Anything that's on one track is played as a camera selection, if you will, whatever. So then you have just your 8 angles per se. And then as you play through verse 1, you can pick and choose between the angles. And then you do like another one for take 2 and another, or verse 2, or however you end up breaking it up. I've had them 2 or 3 different stacked tall. The trick with doing multiple multicams is it will only visually display the multicam, give you edit options for the track that's turned on. There's a selector there in track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have to remember to go select whichever track the multicam is on. That's a little gotcha if you haven't done that before. I'm like, why can I not see the one? I turned it off. I can't. You have to go select track 1 again, and if it's down here.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
That's a more complex if you're stacking multiple multicams.
I may try, I have this video. I've been editing it for the past couple of days. I have the last chorus.
Yeah.
Edit, so I may try editing that with multicam. I'll try.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah.
Anyway, what are your colored markers? I saw you had some colored markers in your timeline. How do you use those?
I'm not real good about colored markers either. Let's see, what is that? I think all the yellow markers there are all the, like I told you, once you start adding those light rays, you've got to add them for every shot. So I think all the yellow is visual effects stuff.
Can you share your screen again so we can see what the...
Oh, sorry. I thought I did. My bad.
You're right.
We're
getting more viewers as we go. Anybody have questions as we go through this? Feel free to drop them in the comments. So
this stuff, that's all like dust, subtle dust, big dust. Everything there is dust.
Right.
So like, you're going to add this kind of stuff in,
Right.
So, once you start adding those particles, you have to keep it going. So,
but you have a marker in the top there, in the top of the timeline that's drug out.
Yeah. Okay, so great. So I've got verse 1 and chorus, verse 2, concert, bridge, down chorus, that sort of thing. So I do like using those markers a lot. That's something I use a lot, is the markers up top.
And just for the sake of questions and explanation, why use the markers there when you can see the whole timeline sequence? How does that help you?
I think if I'm trying to jump around, like if I'm going through my bins and I say, oh, I like something, I need it. It goes into concerts. It's just easier for me to kind of jump to that part of the song a lot quicker.
Right. Yep.
So
cool.
Yeah.
And then they already have a. I'm trying to think of any other questions. Talk to me about color. Do you need? What do you do on that? You talked about adding the particles and visual effects stuff. What about the color correction stuff? How does that work for you?
So I mainly use Premiere. I'm not a DaVinci guy. It's not that I'm opposed to it. I just don't know how to do it. I need you to teach me. I guess I can come to Oklahoma and you can teach me how to do it. So I've just worked mainly within Lumetri, with curves. Usually I work with the curves.
Okay.
I like the curves. That sort of thing. This one was, this particular video was shot in C-Log. So I went out and found a LUT or bought a LUT, I can't remember, for C-Log, and kind of just messed around with the one that I kind of liked, and then duplicated for each clip, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
that's pretty much my, I mean, I really enjoy color, and I can find that I will burn too many days doing it, because I won't just grab one color. I'll go in and shape light. So like, oh, I want the left side of the frame to be a little darker than the right. I mean, this stuff that you do too, so I just find that I end up doing a lot of that. And the guys have different skin tones. So a lot of times I'll draw mattes, power windows around somebody that's more pale, and adjust their exposure differently. So
very cool.
Yeah.
When Premiere added the element of masks and being able to do those custom mats and stuff, that was a good day when they added that into their filter and effects process. I've used those a lot, and then you can even track them. Like it has a built-in motion tracking element. Oh my goodness!
So I come out of the Final Cut world, where I had, you had a 4-point mask or like an 8-point mask. That was it.
I know. Yeah.
So now I can do like 50 points, and have it track and all that kind of stuff.
I still go to the effects bin and I type in like garbage mat once in a while. I'm like, where's my? Oh yeah, that's right. They added it right inside of anything. So that's I still go look for those once in a while. I'm still stuck on the Final Cut ways a little bit too. But I love what Premiere's been able to do in the updated stuff. Cool. Any other overall big picture notes, takeaways? No one else sent any more questions in. Just another reminder, if you guys have any questions or comments, it's kind of a quiet group today, but feel free to ask questions. We'll try to answer them or provide any inputs we can. Yeah. Anything else, Judd, on that project? It's really nice. It looked really good.
I mean, it was fun, and mainly I get to be in ministry, which is a good thing, to serve other people and work with a great group of guys. So.
Yep. And there is a link in the comments if anybody wants to see this video or the first video, much to Judd's chagrin, but he shouldn't have put it on YouTube if he didn't want people going back and watching it. Okay. It's really great. He's got a bunch of other stuff on his YouTube channel. Check them out. It's great, cool stuff. I love what you do for these guys, and I'd love to be out there and work with you on one of those. That was a really sweet location with that barn and everything. It looked really nice.
It was fun. All right, so tell me what you got going on.
So I was trying to figure out I had a couple of projects that were.
I remember. Okay, so one of the things I do, John, is edit the film reels for the Christian Worldview Film Festival.
Yeah, nice.
And I saw the footage from this Discover Majesty promo.
Yes.
I actually remember telling, as I was showing my wife some of this footage, I was like, man, I wish I could do something like that. I don't know how you get hired for stuff like that, but it's really beautiful stuff. And tell me the gentleman's name, because I recognize him.
Eric Ludy? No, the actor.
The actor.
The actor is Nato Jacobson.
Yeah.
He's been in a number of projects. He's been in some short films. Fantastic.
We've talked before. I just couldn't remember right off the top of my head. So
to the film festival.
Yeah. Tell me about this project.
Oh, you want me to tell you about that one? Oh, goodness. I geared up for the other one.
Tell me about the other one. I don't know as much about the other one.
Yeah, the Ellerslie project is we probably need to do a separate session for that one. We put a lot of time and prep into. It was one of the bigger projects, well, that we've done even recently, but it was a lot of fun. But I'll say, be careful what you wish for, because, you know, with anything there's complexity to that one as well. So, but it was a cool project. We'll have to chat about that one at some point. Let's see, we got notes. Rebecca Cook missing, seeing everybody last month at the festival. I know, and looks different with a beard. I'm guessing maybe who looks different with a beard. Neither one of us have beards. Maybe it's NATO in the.
Oh yeah,
NATO had a beard in the video. Yeah. No, I was going to hop on and talk about this other one. It's for the sake of time on this call at least. Let me see.
I took up too much time.
No, you're fine. No. Not at all. I was planning. I went and dug up
THSC. Tell me about it.
THSC is the Texas Homeschool Coalition. They're a legal group. They also they help homeschoolers, and they also help support parental rights in the state of Texas very specifically. Someone described it as they're kind of like HSLDA, but for Texas specifically, if you're familiar with HSLDA. Anyway, so they have a gala event, fundraising type gala event every fall. And so I've been a part of projects in the past for another friend of mine who's helped headline and produce and do all of those. And so when he wasn't available, they came to me and kind of got passed down the line and said, hey, we need someone to come produce a project. And they usually tell some story of someone they've helped, supported, helped get their kids back or something like this. In the past, it's kind of what their videos are about. This one was going to be different because it wasn't one of those themes. This one was more, they wanted to focus on the faith-based element of their ministry. And so they had a really cool story of a guy who came to one of their homeschool conventions. He was raised in the church, drifted away. I'm going to get the story. Now I got to recap the story. I haven't watched the video in just a little while. I got to remember the story straight. Anyway, he went to one of their conventions and decided he wanted to homeschool his kids. And then it's a complex story. So in simplifying it down, along this process, ended up getting saved and coming back to faith. And after he was into Middle Eastern, he was really big into all kinds of spiritual, religious type stuff, but was not embracing Jesus Christ and Christianity. So anyway, coming back to that, it was just a really cool story. Now what adjective would you put here? He's very excited, and he's an avid supporter of THSC and just is on fire to share the gospel anywhere he goes. So they just kind of wanted to encapsulate and share his story. And so his name is Atticus Carr. And so we got pulled in for that one. Another interesting element of this. So this was let me back up. This was an interview-based, story-driven promo type video is kind of the theme around this one. So not as fun and complex as Barnes and multi-cams and all this other stuff that you were doing, but this was more of a story-driven.
Yeah, but I love this. I love this stuff. You can actually do a fair amount of it for ministries, and so I'm always interested to see how you keep it fresh and creative. Right.
So the other interesting is we worked alongside Paul Hastings, who, if you folks may know, he worked with THSC for a number of years and is still involved periodically, but he has a podcast sharing stories of people's walk with Christ and things that they're doing and how it's changed and reformed their lives. So he wanted to tell this guy's story. So he came in on the project from multiple angles as well. So he came in to help do the interview process on this one. We do that a lot on our projects, but we teamed up with him because multiple things. It was a kind of a dual recording. So he was going to use all the audio for his podcast, plus so there's extra questions and an element to it that we were going to use for the video. And it was just a kind of a fun piece of the process. Atticus lives in Houston. And so my team, pre-production process, we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that the messaging of the piece was going to fit what THSC needed for their gala event, because it wasn't a legal issue. It wasn't one of their typical storylines. We worked through talked with Paul quite a bit because he knows a lot of their messaging, to think through questions and story structure and say, what are we going to need? What are the lines we're going to need? How is this going to tie into THSC? How is this going to help them and get the story and all these kind of things? So we did just a lot of that kind of stuff up front. We also ended up using his house at this car, went to his house to film. And then we were going to shoot B-roll with his family. And it was just like a one-day shoot. It's a pretty simple straightforward thing. My team consisted of myself, and then my brother Benjamin works a lot with me in camera stuff, PA. And he's worked with me enough that he's a little more than just a random PA. Like he just knows things now. He knows how to unpack gear and put stuff together. He can like read. He's fantastic. So
the footage looks great. What did you end up shooting this with?
We shot it with. Let me post a link here or see. Yeah, I did post this to my. It's on. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find this real quick. It's actually on THSC's Facebook.
Man, I saw the Vimeo link that you.
Yeah, I just uploaded that because I hadn't had it on there. THSC, Texas Homeschool Coalition. Let me find this real quick. I didn't think to pull that one up. And here we go. Lifetime member. Can I just copy that? Let's see if that works. Copy. No, that copied the word lifetime. Let me click on this, see if I can get this to not play. Hey, but wait. Okay, all right, now I got the link. Cool. We'll post this in the comments here. People can go look at it if they wanted to. Yeah.
I have lots of questions.
You have lots of questions? All right, great. So we shot it on a C100 Mark II, and I own one, I rent a second one. So they're just dual camera setups. And let me see, do you want me to just keep going into production stuff, or do you have pre-production?
Well, mine is more of like, mine is, so as an interviewer, did Paul ask the questions or did you?
Paul asked the questions. Here, let me hop into some of the production. I'll screen share.
Okay.
Here, let me do it.
Well, it affects production. That's what I was going to ask.
Finder. Wait, here we go. All right, so I'm going to screen share here. First and foremost, when it comes to my projects, food.
Nice.
You can see this, right? So we found a local taco truck. Dude, I'm telling you, if you're in Houston, taco trucks, man. All right, I love good food on projects. So we went down, we got a hotel, stayed the night before so that we could be ready to go first thing in the morning, just drive right over to his house. Because I'm a good like 5-6 hours from Houston. And so driving down day of wasn't a good idea. So my brother went with me. Anybody that ever works with me knows that at some point I've got to find good food. So we started the whole project off with this. It was great.
So when you come to Georgia, we're going to the taco truck.
Oh, hey, I've been to Atlanta, Georgia, and have you been to Fox Bros Barbecue?
I've heard of that, yeah.
Oh no, dude, we got to experience Fox Bros. I was out there shooting a project one time, and the locals said Fox Bros, and we went. All right, I'm gonna refrain. I love good food. All right, this was the hotel. They had like a great. I don't remember what hotel it was now. I'm sorry, it doesn't even say on the plates. But anyway, good food. Okay, we'll get into actually David Cook, Woodstock Taco Truck. Been there.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yes, see, that's what I'm saying.
That's right. Hey, David.
All right. So this is just to set up Benjamin. He also sits in for me while I'm setting up and lighting. We got to the house and we're trying to figure out, do we shoot towards the kitchen? Do we shoot towards the living room? And every house has its own unique structure, architecture, build. And so then there's signage, and then you want to try to get the hearth, but then there's windows and what's going to be bright. Where's the sun? I use the Sunseeker app to figure out where the sun's going to be. If they're going to come into those windows 3 hours from now, I'm going to hate it. All those kind of things. So I spend quite a bit of time. I try to allocate like 45 minutes minimum. I like an hour and a half to just get into a space, look around, move stuff around. And so actually, his kids were there in the background when we were setting up. During the interview, his wife and kids took off and went shopping or did some stuff, sat at Chick-fil-A, played in the play place or something when we were actually filming, so it would be quiet. But this was, this is before all the lights are on, just FYI, this is pre-set up, but I had a screen capture kind of how this was looking. And let me see. So this is kind of a behind the scenes look at this setup. So they had a hardwood floor. Can you see my mouse cursor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they had a hardwood floor here, and Paul Hastings had this extra roll of carpet in his car because he often does podcasts and stuff, and he's like, oh, I just have extra roll of carpet in case I need things to help me, something like this. Anyway, so we rolled out the carpet. It's not a red carpet, but we rolled out the carpet to help for the sound purposes and set the chair down. here on this chair. I have a little Dracast LED 3-piece kit. So this was kind of lighting back here. We let the sunlight
the same
come.
one. So that's just a special kind of, I have that same kit. So that's just a special to light up the wall.
Yep, just kind of hit the hearth here just a little bit because I turned a lot of the overheads off. I actually let this living room light on back here. It helped light this up back here and not get too dark. Otherwise, it just made him really bright and the background really dark. And so just to bring up the ambience back there, I dimmed the blinds or turned the blinds thing so the sun wasn't coming through a lot, but I didn't want to completely blank it out. And then I pulled the curtains to help cut down on that amount of light coming in there as well. I think that may be it. Then I had a big light here. I have a aperture 120T tungsten. So during daylight, I have to gel it. And then I actually have a video clip, and if there's no need to hear the.
So do you have a?
I don't know how to mute it. Here we go. Come on, mute. Come on, mute. All right, you're starting to hear everybody talking. We're just like chatting. So this is kind of the setup. Here's one camera. This is Paul's dad. He came in and actually made the lunch run for us. So there's one camera set up here with the 70 to 200 as the tight, and then here's the camera. So we use this. I switch them up sometimes. You know, sometimes the close-in camera is the tight angle. Sometimes the side-out camera is the close angle. It just depends on the setup. For this setup, it worked really nice to have the wide angle or a wider angle on the main, kind of closer in, just the way everything laid out. And then I did the tight on the side. That just kind of depends. Let's see. Then we had the microphone up there. You can see, I had a reflector just bouncing in some of this light just to the slight field. And you can see Paul saying we collaborated on the question asking. And then this pans up over here and you can kind of see I have the light dome on the front of that 120, but I often don't put the diffusion in it. And I just shoot it through a big silk. And then I can double that if I need to, but it helps create a much larger soft source than just
like a larger source, yeah,
than just the light dome. And I just really love the soft light that it and the way it wraps around. And
that's one of the challenges I have with just I have the Dracast kit.
Yeah.
I also have a flexible LED light, but none of them they're very big sources. So I like seeing that. That's a good way to do it.
This is what I use mainly for a key. I've also just started renting Aperture 300 for some key, and then like a massive box. Oh my goodness, that was incredible. I think that's going to happen someday. But in that one, you can put like the egg crate grid in it. I don't have the egg crate grid for the light dome here. I think you can get one, but for the Dracast kit, they do make a little soft box with an egg crate grid that goes in it, and I have used that on tiny shoots where I'm in like really tight spaces, and you can put the little soft thing on it. And I don't use that for most of our projects, but every once in a while I've used the soft light.
No, I love the solutions though, because one of the things I do a lot of is travel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm on a Delta flight to DC, and I've got 11 cases, and I really can't take a lot of big stuff with me. Right. So
the box that the Dracast comes in, you can buy the soft box and the egg crate. Like that stuff's small enough, it just sits right inside that case as well. It's not extra stuff. So anyway, that's this one.
And did you use any backlight here, or is it just the bounce?
And then we did Wingstop on the way out. No, it's just the bounce.
Okay.
There's a little bit of, I don't have a still frame up here, but you can kind of see there's a little bit of right on the top of his head here. I think that's actually coming from the living room lights.
Just some rim there.
Yeah, it just kind of served to light this up back here a little bit better. At one point, you can see down here right in front of Paul's head on the floor back in the background though. At one point I was trying to put a light here and like hit up this cross because they were featuring the faith element. I thought, well, maybe I can. It was just way too spotty and I couldn't dim it out fast enough. I just pulled it. It just wasn't working. So I tried a few other little things and it just seemed to overcomplicate it. And so I opted to go with simpler. Hunter Starnes is watching. Hey Hunter, he said the 300D is awesome. The Dracast was also really solid. Was pleasantly surprised the last time he used it. Yeah, I really like the combination. The color is not as great on the Dracast stuff as opposed to the Aperture. but it works enough. And I have a gel kit too that I'll gel them if I need to help it warm up or cool off or whatever.
Sure. So do you have the back color or just the regular?
No, it's just a regular. And then those are bicolor, so it's
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think I had everything shot to tungsten, and then I just let the outside be blue, just a little bit of color contrast as well. I didn't daylight balance it.
I have the back color, but I generally run them at like 4400 just so I can get more punch out of the lights. You know.
Right. Yeah. So that was kind of production. We just filmed the interview. Well, that's not all of production. So we filmed the interview first, and we kind of made some mental notes. Atticus is a professional cosmetologist or beautician, if you want the simpler term for it. And so we did some footage. Actually, I can, let me hop over to Premiere. I'm going to bring this over.
So my question is, do you plan that footage out first, or do you shoot the interview and then say, hey, you know what would be a great shot? Like, what's your pre-pro process there?
We have some basic ideas. You're just like, well, at the minimum, we could probably get them playing a game. We went out and grabbed pizza for lunch. We could probably get them sitting around the table eating pizza. Like, some of those are just very front of mind, like easy stuff. Some of the more complex or the things that are more specific to the story, we definitely take notes during the interview. I love shooting interviews first, so I can make those kinds of notes and then say, you know what, we need to fill this in. Or there was a part of his story that was talking about darkness and depression. Those are always hard ones, right? How do you figure out what sitting by the window or the rain coming down? Like, those are all the cliche ones, but they do work.
And on a wall.
That's right. Yeah, the pensive, thoughtful looks. There were some interesting elements of the story involving dreams and some things that end up working, didn't fit for time's sake in our stuff. So I just had some of the stuff I shot. I didn't know all that going into it. Some of the stuff we shot was like, we turned all the lights off in the house and it was just natural light. I just did some like slow moves in the hallway, and you could like see the door cracked open, and then there was like, push-ins on the door, some of these kinds of things that I'm like, oh, that's a little different. We did have him just walk outside, just walking a path, and then he like sits down on a bench and he's got his arm out and he's just kind of looking. We just did some of that as well, because you gotta have something to fill some of that pre-side of time stuff. We did make a lot of notes of what to shoot and have ideas while during the interview, and then we shot a lot of that stuff. We spent probably 3 hours, I think, after the interview. We did about 30 minutes per setup to shoot stuff, and so that's all we could allocate for time. So it was a pretty run and gun kind of situation. Let me share screen. Let's do Premiere, and I'll share computer sound, and then if I need to mute it, we can. So we did just a bunch of, now this is all behind the scenes. So I have a bunch of, here's how I organize. I have random files. If I need motion graphics, music, a lot of this is offline because a lot of it was temp stuff we threw in then didn't want to use. There's nothing in the pictures folder. And then there's nothing in this sound folder. I just had the same Premiere template set up every time I make a project, and I just duplicate it on the hard drive and rename it. So I have a bunch. I'm a big believer in versioning sequences.
I was going to just add to that. I would encourage that for the viewers. Like, that's one thing that, I've been an editor for years, but I really didn't have a process like that until the past year or so. And it's just saved so much time, because I don't have to think of it. It's like I have a very similar setup, right? So I have a sequence folder and an assets folder and a footage folder, and it just helps me so much more now because I have that same file structure, and not even within inside Premiere, but also outside Premiere.
Right. In Finder, the folder structure almost mirrors exactly.
Almost mirrors exactly. So I have a project folder, an assets folder, that sort of thing. And it's so much easier to operate that way,
Sure. It saves a ton of time. Just, you probably would believe the amount of time I work on other people's projects, and they send over a Premiere file, and it's just everything all in one bin. There's no folders, there's no bins to organize anything.
Oh yeah.
And you can just sit here and scroll this thing, and you're just like, how? Okay. So anyway, it's not an efficient way of doing it. This is much faster to find what you need. And once this bin gets too big,
right,
I'll create a new bin inside of here that says old or something, and I just start throwing you know, the stuff I don't need in it.
I can see in your folder structure and your sequences, you do things similar that I do, and that is making selection reels. So talk about that. That's one thing that I
right. So
I
here's
like to do.
right. So here's a bunch of B-roll, and so credit where credit's due. My brother Benjamin did a lot of assistant editing and setup on this one for me, and he likes to use colors for sections. And so when they're talking about a certain, like this, all this B-roll is going to be a certain setup that we did all in this room. So when it changes, then he changed the colors so that we can easily see, instead of all just being blue, we can easily say, oh, this is the hair cutting stuff because he's a cosmetic.
Sure, and that's similar to what I do with my markers up top.
Right.
I just lay out areas of the timeline and I kind of throw it in there.
Right. But for so much B-roll, he likes to do it this way sometimes to, so we did some family dance offs, and so we go through all of this. This is how I do it. We go through the footage and stuff that we like. I bump it up to the next track, so I can easily come back and reference. I'm like, I needed another clip around. I wonder if there's anything in here, so I can quickly come back and find stuff. But I already know which stuff I already pulled out and liked, and so I just go through and bump it all. Let's see what this one is. Oh, this is the second camera angle because we had two cameras. We have 4 hours. There's a giant chunk here, but if you compressed it in, about 4 hours of B-roll between two cameras. And some of this is shot in slow-mo. I kind of just shoot almost anything and everything in this type of a situation. There's not a lot of planning. You never know when you're going to catch little moments or just catching little things around the house that maybe help them feel like them. And then a lot of it just doesn't make it in, of course.
Sure.
Little kids, just faces. You're
Are
trying
you shooting most things at 60 frames a second, that sort of thing?
Let me see.
60, 48, whatever.
Yeah, most of this B-roll is 60. That's why it's 4 hours, because it's all bumped out on to 60. I do shoot like 90% of B-roll in 60. It depends on the project, but a lot of times I'll do all the B-roll in 60. So we did homeschooling stuff. We did kids playing games. So anyway, we go through all of this and it all gets bumped up.
And are you lighting any of that stuff, or are you just mainly just throwing up a source to kind of bounce some light, that sort of thing?
This one, I don't know that we did as much right here because we were playing off the TV, I think, but we had like a light or two that we just bounced on. Let's see. That setup is just a little dark. Let me see. Let me get back in here. Where's this one? Like we had a light out. They have a white ceiling, so I was just bouncing some light off the ceiling. You can feel it right here. I just pointed one over. We got a little bit of rim going on. Just some pretty subtle stuff. There it is. Caught it in one of the camera swing arounds. So it's just a little bit. I don't want it to feel like too much like it's lit, but just a little bit of something. I know the stuff we did of, we went out and played, where's the, there's the school. So you can feel this one back here. You can see kind of coming across on the top of his arm. So we've got, there's the light stand back there.
Sure.
We've got one pointing in here, and then they had another opening to the room. I didn't prep all this stuff to see.
Oh, you're okay.
You can see in the B-rolls, the cameras swing around. There's one. So here's a light set up here, just kind of throwing in some backlight. So I do a little bit just to kind of, and then you can see this one here. There's the light dome. I took the silk off and the diffusion out, and it's just shooting up into the ceiling to kind of provide some more ambience and lift it up.
Now, when you ask them to pull out pictures, because this is a quite frequent thing that I deal with.
Right.
Hey, do you have any pictures of that?
Right.
Like, do you like the style of, what do you lean towards most of the time? Filming the pictures with your camera? Because I've done both. I've done that, and also have an app on my phone where I will basically, I can capture the picture without any glare, because it shoots like, and then sometimes I go back and put that in After Effects so it just depends.
Right. I don't do After Effects really. Like I know enough how to manipulate a template if I had to, but I'm not.
Sure. And this is a great style. I just was curious what you did.
So I don't do After Effects most for custom stuff because I'm not good at doing that. So I either hire it out if the budget allows, or we did prep this ahead of time for them. Like we did tell them we'd like some family pictures.
Okay.
So they did have these things on hand that we didn't spring this one on them. And so for the podcast thing, he was also giving a lot of his life story, backstory stuff. So we filmed a lot of this because again, you never quite know what you're going to end up using in post.
That's right.
So there's a lot of this family stuff, and we used some of it, but not as much. So I just filmed them here as opposed to scanning them in or doing any of that kind of stuff, just because I felt like it was more interesting. And
That's right.
we could keep I actually like being able to do it this way, and then like pan from this picture to that picture and even use that as a storytelling element and start connecting some dots and things like that. So we just shot and again, I do this after the interview doing this after the interview is really helpful, just so you have some of that to think about. Here's the stuff where he's just walking, and we do just kind of from behind. Come on, catch up here. And then the sun came out right as he sat down.
Yeah.
Wrecked the whole thing. So anyway, so I'd already shot him coming to sit down, and I liked the overcast because it fit the mood. And then the sun came out, so I had to reshoot him coming to sit down so that it would all match. He's just kind of staring off pensively. And I love live event, just catching stuff in the moment, just getting into a space and figuring it out and saying, oh, let's try this, look over here.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of this type of stuff doesn't allow for as much pre-thought and planning. So there's like just a group of trees. And so I just kind of did some moves through here. I do them a couple times. I don't have any steady stuff. I just shoot it in slow-mo and handhold it, stuff through the trees. We also did go to a park then and played with the kids because everybody's happy at the end. They're a very happy family. They're a lot of fun. So we just wanted some footage like that to also denote and show some of those things. And the sun came out, and that was great for a warm, happy ending stuff. So we go through, those are selects. Then we go into this one, we just copy. I'll just go through and, like select everything in this track.
Lasso that track.
Yeah, then I'll just, or I mean, you can select it all, but then I'll copy it, go into a new sequence, paste it, and then you can do a sequence, close gap, and it all smushes together. And then we do the process again. And we go back through it, and we start picking through even that stuff to say, okay, out of all of this, because we've still got 45 minutes of B-roll here.
Right. What's the best of the best?
What's the best of the best? And so then we may even, actually, I think we left this one here. And what I'll also do sometimes is what's called a pancake. You can drag it up here like this. And so as you're editing, you can just drag it from one sequence to the next one.
Idea. I love that. I love learning new stuff. That's a great idea.
Instead of having to click these stupid little tabs, and then all of a sudden you accidentally click the X, and then you got to go open it. Oh my goodness, I waste so much time. And then you click them by accident, and you're dragging them around. These tabs are not my favorite.
That is such a great idea. I love it.
Thing I use a I don't know if you can see it. I can't show it. I have a Stream Deck with programmable buttons.
Oh yeah.
So I have a sequence. This is a little bit of the nerd out moment, okay? But I have a sequence recorded button that will copy this. It'll do Shift 3, which puts it into. You have to close all these tabs to make it work, so it just shifts between the two. It'll select this, paste the clip, and then reselect Shift 3 again to go back to up here. So with one button, I can copy paste it, and then it comes back, and I can keep looking. You hit the button, and I select the clip like this. You press the button, and it'll copy. I don't want to close all these tabs out, but anyway, that's a little. I call that advanced nerdy. You can just drag.
I love that. And your process for creating selects for interviews is the same, I would say, or similar.
Same thing. Before we get to the interviews, one of the other things I do is edit your music ahead of time. And because what ends up happening is if you have your footage, all of a sudden your music doesn't match up, and you're trying to then make a join where the music doesn't want to join, and you can hear it. And so you can go through a song ahead of time and find the beats, you can find the repetitive moments. And if you need to shorten it, which is often the case because you only have 3 minutes, say it's a 4.5 minute track, this ended up being like a 4.5 minute video, I think. Excuse me. And so you can go through there, and if you need to repeat some sections, it's easier to make those kind of edits and cut this together ahead of time, so you can find the beats and moments that match, and then shorten those up and pull those together so that the music works, and then force your edit to fit the music.
Okay, let me ask you this though, and I have done it that way. Sometimes when the music is generic and I need it to all be upbeat, I do it that way. But sometimes the interview dictates whether I want it to be sad to uplifting. And when that transition point happens, I couldn't necessarily edit the music in advance like that, because
I would still try to make that transition happen on its, like fit that to make it sound good, and then make the visuals work with the music sounding, because people, my belief is people can hear that music shift.
Oh, sure, sure, sure.
Oh, I can't hear it. Can you hear it?
No.
Oh, I know why. My audio hardware. Hang on.
No, but I got you. I mean, I really, I've learned how to cut and splice music very well over the years, but I agree with you. It takes some finesse.
So yeah. So there is a point where it started picking up. I don't know this. So anyway, this was an attempt at making some of this stuff work. Anyway.
For this particular, did you have a lot of the things I do is for clients and they want it to be a certain length? Did you have a certain length dictated? And you know, what's funny is over the years, that length has gotten shorter and shorter. It's like, oh yeah, people can handle a 6-minute video. Now it's like no longer than 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you know, so.
Well, it's funny because almost any client, and unless you're doing 30 or 60 spots or ads, or if you're going to use them for Facebook ads, then 30s and 60s work, or even 15s. I was just talking to a guy yesterday and he said people are even asking for 5s because they run ads in the middle of, anyway. So in those cases, it's very specific. Or if you're going to use them on Instagram ads or those kind of things, then you have a hard time. But most of the time, they're just like, whatever the story needs it to be is what they generally say. But that usually still lands between like a 3.5 minute at most. This one was a little different, and we came in one of our longer with all the tags, before tags and everything. It was about 4 minutes, which is a little longer than what we normally do, but it was a complex story for the usage, what they were using it for. It worked, and it really didn't have a lot of laggy parts. So anyway, that was fitting it to what it needed to be. So anyway, I do start with the music like this, and then as you get into editing, you often discover you need to make adjustments or something's not working, or you need it shorter. But it's still easier to try to shift that, make that music shorter on its own and find the natural beat points, and then come in and adjust your footage to it, as opposed to, I've just spent hours trying to make music, forcing music cut points to blend in places that don't work very well. And when I have finally just quit doing that and just go, where does the music need to join, and prioritizing that, and then forcing my footage to either be shorter or longer to match that, it's just a lot faster and works a lot better. I was just doing that on another project and was really frustrated. I'm like, you know what? I know, and I just went and fixed the music and then cut out a few more shots, and then it worked. So that's just been helpful for me. We get a lot of questions saying, how do I get my music to join up? And that's one of the easiest ones I know, is to prioritize the music. So let me hop over and see if anybody, Hunter Starnes, yes to the pancake timelines. Yes, right? Yes, oh man. Okay. I just see if there's any other comments going on. So here's the interview, same thing. We look through it and we do selects. And then this had during the interview, because this was a long interview, we don't usually do 2-hour interviews. This is part of the podcast and video merge thing. So I was taking notes, time code notes during the interview. I don't always do this, but for this one, I took time code notes of sections I thought we might like and topics.
Okay, that's great.
Because it's 2 hours. And so then I had those notes to hand off to my brother to say, okay, now that I know what we talked about, I know where we're going, we kind of, here's some circles of stuff I think we really want to focus on. And he could very easily go into here and with the time code could figure out where that stuff was at and then pull those. So then he also color codes the interview for different topics and sections.
Sure.
Stuff he thinks, or if we want to cut it. Sometimes the colors change. It just depends on the project. Sometimes I use orange and red for stuff I want to cut. Sometimes he uses that for openings and closings. So we kind of use colors a little differently. The thing is, just be consistent with your colors. Have your own process. Here we've laid in some music. Looks like we decided, or this is probably the watermarked version. We have the unwatermarked version and stuff now. So this was just some temp layout, just covering cuts, putting some footage in. We also go through and when we do 2 cameras, I don't do multicam for just 2 cameras. but I will, I don't know which one he did this in. Okay, it's done at least by here. We'll match up the cameras, and then I will make sure that those cameras and everything are linked so that it reads as one clip, so I don't have to keep dragging the marquee selection to get all the clips every time I want to move a clip. These will operate and behave just as one clip if I want to move it around.
Copy.
When I'm doing long interviews like this with multicam or dual cameras, it saves me a lot of time doing it that way. You don't want to group it, you want to link it. Grouping it, if you cut a group, it still reads the whole group like that, and that's really frustrating. So what you have to do is unlink it first, because this track is merged with this audio and this track is merged with this audio. So you have to unlink them and then select them all and link them. And if you do that right at the beginning, before you chop it up like this, it's a very easy thing to do and saves a ton of time after the fact. See, these got unlinked for some reason here. And then we're back to the linked stuff. But so these are just some of the rough layouts. Started dropping in footage. We wanted to end with some of this. This is version 7. Let's see, version 10 started looking more like this. And we got our B-roll, as you can see, all the color codes going in here. This was closing lines. We had a music merge. So we ended up doing
under having given him a man by which we must be saved.
Well, come on.
And I read that verse and it says, neither is there salvation in any other. There's only one name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. And it was a very specific answer to my very.
So that was just a clear fade out, fade in. And I didn't even try to make a merge thing happen audibly. So for that music piece. I don't know if there was anything else super notable here. I mean, I could talk about some color. We did a whole second. This long clip is an optional thing that the client might have wanted. You can see the light changes there in the background, the sun, but that's clicking from here to here. During the course of the interview, you don't notice it that much. The wife and kids did come back, and we shot a bunch of B-roll. We did some stuff with them reading the Bible. They were praying. This is for pizza. We just grabbed footage and they were reading the kids' Bibles to them in their room. One of the things I like to do, especially working with non-actors, because I have some experience with professional actors, but a lot of the people I'm working with are not professional actors. I try to put them in as much of their own real world environment as possible so that they don't feel like they have to act. And it becomes very documentary approach then to say, so we want to do some family Bible time. Where do you guys usually do family Bible time? And they're like, usually we do it sitting on our bed in our room. So I'm like, all right, let's go back there and do it there. And we'll just try to make that space work to help them feel as comfortable and natural as possible. And they're like, okay, she usually reads a few things. I'm like, great, let's just do that. And then I just run around and get some angles. And once in a while, I'm like, hey, maybe they could sit here. Maybe we could tweak that. But I keep it very, very loose and light and just try to have them do it a couple times. Here's some other stuff we were just capturing on the walls. Here's an example of just stuff, little things that they aren't necessarily pointing out, but you can just walk around a house and say, this says something, this adds to the story to see these things written on the whiteboards, and we grab some shots of that.
Right. One thing that I do, John, is generally when there's two of us, it's usually set up by a client, and they'll say, hey, we're going to go and videotape. I work with a foster care ministry, so I go in and videotape families, but I generally have a set amount of time to be in their house. And so one thing I can do to kind of bolster my B-roll is as we're packing up, I literally tell the other camera guy, either I'm going to continue packing the car and you just take the camera and go around the house and get as many shots as you can of just architect. So it'll be a sign that says blessed over the kitchen table and welcome by the front door and a family photo sitting on the mantle, and they're just capturing that stuff. And those things really come in handy, the cross or the graduation picture on the refrigerator, those things really come in handy, in editing. You're going to want those things to cover edits, so that's one suggestion I would make to people.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Right. And so that's often the case. Oftentimes I'll keep shooting because I'm kind of the connection point to the client, and whoever's assisting starts packing stuff up, but especially when they know how everything goes together. And So yeah, we'll double team like that as well, because we're coming up on 4:30 or 5 o'clock or
That's
whatever
right.
it is, and you're like, we're trying to maximize that amount of time.
Sure.
And then when some of that's done, or if we want to do a couple two camera angles, because he'll shoot. I really love shooting B-roll on the 18 to 55. I have a Canon 18 to 55, and that just gives me a decent tight and a pretty wide, and it gives a lot of flexibility to just do the run and gun thing. And so the second angle is often the tight stuff, and really helps complement. And then they can get in tighter because I run all over the place, and that allows the second shooter to kind of crop me out of wherever I happen to be,
Right.
and we can kind of double team that way, and it's worked really well. Then we did some of the family stuff here. On this one, they had a few tagline things that they wanted him to say, just kind of like, I am a THSM member for life, or, you know, I'm a homeschool dad, or they just some of these kind of messaging statements. We did a few of those straight to camera to close it out. And then we had their logos and title stuff that they wanted to plug in here at the end. It was a really cool story. Let me dig in here real quick on, I'm going to do, these are always odd. Let me see if I can find a decent frame here to pause him on. That's a weird thing as editing. As an editor, I don't always notice that. And then people walk in the room and they're like, wow, he's got a weird face. And you're like, I literally was not even looking at that screen. I hadn't. All right, here we go. That's a decent one. Okay, so for color, I have here's, I don't shoot C-Log most of the time for this kind of stuff. It's just not as necessary for this type of project. So I shoot, this one actually looks pretty flat though. I don't remember. I started doing a few of them C-Log, and then I switched back and forth. I use wide DR a lot of times because it's kind of this nice middle ground. And for faster turnaround stuff, it can help save some time for stuff that doesn't need all the extra data. So since, let's see here, we'll select this one. So this is the flat look. I have a basic one I keep in presets. I have several presets over here for the C100. Here's several C-Log ones. So I dropped that one on. It's just a tiny contrast adjustment just to make it look not so bad. Then this one, this is just curves. I love using the curves as well. And I often just use RGB curves as opposed to doing them inside of Lumetri. I do both. So this one was more contrast for just client review and approval and stuff. And once we get a locked thing, then I'll do more stuff to it. We can hop over here to color. Let me move this little window. So you can see we're pushing some exposure. Let me see, turn it on here. So that one's the extra little punch to it. And I was playing around with a lot of different LUTs on the bottom end of this thing. And so I was naming them. So this one's, you can rename them when you're turning a bunch of them on and off, because otherwise they're just a bunch of Lumetri color. And I was like, hey, look at this. I can name them. If I stack them, then I can keep track. And you can, instead of having to select them all here, you can come over here and use this drop down. There's only one here, but if there's multiple, you can select it from this drop down and then quickly make adjustments. Oh man, once I figured that out, that was nice. Let's see. So there's just some contrast stuff here. And then I use the scopes. And then in the creative for this one, this is from a pack from Triune Films. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. The log 709 red. And so you kind of just mess around with different ones, whichever one looks right. And this is like at a 28%. It's pretty low. It's a pretty low application, but it just kind of does some stuff to the blue that I like, and kind of in the gray, I don't know, it just some nice stuff to the skin tones even. It just kind of added that extra in a quick way. There's people are going to be for LUTs. Some people are against LUTs. And I don't use them as the primary set of things. There's a little bit of a look after the fact for me, but it can be a helpful, fast turnaround way of getting something and getting that done. So that I do use LUTs often, but I don't use them exclusively. We used a name title. So this was Atticus Carr, wonderful guy. And just lots of, here's some of the other footage we popped in there. So that's pretty much that. It was, I'm trying to think of key takeaways. Any other questions, I guess, before we?
I mean, mine are probably for a different time. I'm curious about interviewing and that sort of thing, and like what your experience is.
Sure.
So because you know, different people are different, they interview different. But then I find that some of my clients want to be the interviewer, but they don't have a skill as an interviewer, and so it doesn't turn out well, you know. So it just depends, you know.
Right.
So I was just curious, but you had Paul doing that, so.
Well, so it varies. Most of the time, so here's how we break it down. It depends on the type of project. For a lot of the work that we do, we're doing testimonial based interviews. So it's a lot of times the customers that come in. And the way I approach the interview then is I want those people to feel free to say anything. So having then the client directly involved can sometimes be a presence. Even if they're in the room, it can feel, people can feel that, and they don't feel as free to just express their opinion, good or bad. They say it different. I think a lot of times it's because, again, we're non-actors, they're just random people, not random people, but they're not even used to being in front of the camera. So I want them to feel as comfortable and conversational as possible. So I'm trying to remove any of those elements. And we do talk to the clients ahead of time and talk about that.
Here in Cherokee County, we had a Cherokee County Film Summit, almost like the Christian Worldview. And so
I saw your pictures from
I
that.
taught a champion, but a friend that I work with a lot named Luke Livingston, he taught a class on how to interview people. And it was really great. It was stuff that I've been doing it for years, but it was a really great, informative thing because it talks about how to just make people that you interview feel, make them feel valued.
Right.
And, you know, you might run into those people at the store, like the way that you treat them and talk to them and how it changes the way that they interact with you. It was really interesting. I've been on some interviews with a client and I'm just hired as the camera guy and I'm not the interviewer. And it kills me because I'm sitting there behind the camera and I'm seeing the client say to the person they're interviewing, they'll say, how did I do? And they go, you know, that was terrible. Where you went wrong was this, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just cringing up, dying because the way that you interact with those people when you're interviewing really just, hey, you got a little one in the background there. Hey, what's happening, man? Hi. That's awesome. What are they saying? What are they saying?
They said, who is that, Dad? Who is that?
Judd.
It's Mr. Judd.
Hi.
Okay, go wait in the living room.
Oh.
Thank you. Bye.
Anyway, I'm always interested in that process because it really affects the edit. It really,
Right.
The way that they respond. And sometimes I've had a few clients that I have a good relationship with, and I said, hey, would you mind if I sit in your chair for a minute and I just leave the camera sitting there to the side? I'm not even operating anymore. I'm just like, hope it's okay.
Right.
I hop in. It's not. I'm not trying to be like I'm an expert or anything. It's just that what I do is, one thing is they're having the questions like this, and and I just put that aside,
Right.
and I just say, hey man, that was tough. Tell me about it. And we just start talking and having a conversation like this. And I generally find that it's more authentic, and I get a lot less ums and uhs and these type things.
Right.
And it's just more of a dynamic conversation. And generally anyway, that's a side note for another video, but I love that process.
Right. But hugely actors for those. For Paul Hastings has done a lot of interviews, did a great job. I worked another project just recently with THSC, and we kind of tag team. Paul wasn't on that one. It was someone else from THSC who's had a lot of experience doing this kind of stuff as well. But we tag teamed a little more on that one because I'm listening for a certain perspective and they're listening from a legal perspective, what we can and can't say. And so there was moments we were trying to get certain things right. There's moments where I said, you know, you're just sitting at a coffee table with a guy, and I just want you to tell the story in that perspective. And
That's
just,
right.
How do you feel? What was this like for you? Tell it to me like I've never heard any of this. I'm not going to know what all the legal things are. So just kind of keeping that, trying to make that atmosphere happen is kind of what I'm looking for, to see them be relaxed, see them be genuine, see them be real. And that communicates that, you know, that comes through the interview, and people can feel that in the video and then the finished thing. So that's a huge part of it. We actually, okay, now since you asked, I'm going to shameless plug. We actually just put together a whole module write-up about how to do great interviews.
Oh, okay.
So I'll link to that here in the notes if people want to go check that out. Because there's a bunch, because again, it's a whole long topic thing, and we have.
Now, when you do these from a production side, have you ever taken one thing? I just did a whole documentary we're working on about socialism. We had to stop because of the virus. We're not traveling right now, but we were in DC and New York, and we took one easy production thing we took with us. We took a 4-foot slider. We put it in a golf club case, and it was very light.
Right.
But we learned that it added so much. I love that you have the second angle here. We took a 4-foot slider, and it actually gave us another angle, and it was able to add a little bit of motion. And with us being such a small crew, it's almost like having another shooter, because it kept moving the whole time.
Right. Was it motorized one, or was it like
it's a motorized slider? And it had dampening, so when it got to the end, it would the nice thing is, like when you use a Dana and you're shooting an interview.
Right.
You can kind of time it out with their, how their sentences kind of start and end, and you can kind of slow and ramp.
Right.
This one, we couldn't do that, but it did have dampening. So when it got to the end, it sort of slowed down. So you could even use a take that stopped and went back the other way, because it was such a subtle thing that if you had to use it that way, you could. So
I need to get one of those motorized ones for one of my interviews.
Yeah, this one was like GVM. I think it's great. Video Maker, which is kind of hysterical the way it sounds, but it it was very inexpensive, and it ran on the Sony, batteries. Right. And I think I ran like the entire trip on like one battery. I mean, it ran forever,
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of practice to, like on a Dana Dolly, you've got an operator, so you can pan and tilt your camera.
Yeah.
With the slider, the motorized slider, you have to get it at the right level and the right axis, because if not, by the time it gets to the end of the clip, you're going to be like way off axis, or cutting the frame, so you have a ton of negative space.
Right.
So you have to really spend a little bit of time kind of learning how to get it to keep that focal point. You follow what I'm saying, in the center of the frame.
Yep. Well,
but it added so much value to it,
Yeah. I've done some of those in the past. I haven't done any of the motorized ones. I would be interested in doing that at some point. I've seen other people do them handheld. I've shot some handheld interviews with like an easy rig thing that helps hold the camera so your arms don't.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh man. Yeah, but if it's long, that can be a bear.
Yeah, these are like, it's kind of when you're doing a doc, a lot of it's discovery. Right. So it may be, like you said, like a 30-minute or an hour-long interview. Yeah. And it's just kind of a process of discovery,
right?
Figuring out what it's going to be,
Right.
So
we haven't used a lot of that for most of ours. We've done a lot of just the two setups for most of what we do, and then we just shoot a ton of B-roll, so you don't have to see the interview as much either. We'd cover it, but yeah, the questions you ask and the atmosphere on set is huge and makes a big difference in helping an interviewee feel comfortable and not like you're reading notes. They don't want to see the top of your head. And so knowing your questions ahead of time, trying to do as much of it from memory, and just explore new things as they're talking and just say, that's interesting, let's talk about that. And feel free to rabbit trail. Part of it sometimes is just helping them feel like they're being heard and listened to is more important than necessarily hitting the next question that's there, and just feeling very conversational. The way they respond, you're really the director. Whoever's asking the questions is really the director in that moment. And so they will feed off of you. If you're nervous and uptight, they won't feel comfortable. And so it's exhausting mentally for me to do an interview. That's how I know I've done I've done an interview close to right, is when I'm just really tired at the end of the interview, just even asking questions and stuff. It's a huge mental exercise.
The other thing I learned, the big takeaway I learned from that other thing is, and I've done this for years, before the interview starts, to say, hey, okay, I'm going to ask the question. Yep. When I say it, what is your favorite color? Don't just say red. Say, I really love the color red, because I used to explain that every time. And what my friend Luke said, if you have to explain that to them, you're a bad interviewer. Like, you need to be able to ask them the question so they don't respond like that in the first place.
Right.
And that was a really huge takeaway for me for that. So now I really think about, like, about how I ask the question,
Yeah.
so that I don't get one word responses. So
Right.
so it's not, it shouldn't be their job to have to answer it the way that I ask it. Like I need to do a better job of asking the questions. So
Yeah.
that was what I learned.
Closed-ended questions of like yes and no,
That's right.
one word.
Open-ended questions.
Tough.
Right.
But even if you were to be creative and say, tell me why the color red is important to you, then sometimes we'll still start with, well, because I like the, and you're like, ah. So sometimes you still have to go back and rehearse and say,
That's true. That's true.
can you make it a complete sentence? They're not going to hear me talk.
That's right.
I also like to tell them it's not live, and then we can edit this together and we'll use only the best stuff and they're going to look amazing. And obviously it's like obviously not live, but sometimes that just helps take some of the pressure out of it of like, oh, it's not the news. I don't have to be like what I've seen most of the time other people on camera. It's not that.
Right. You don't have to land the plane in a sentence. Yeah. So
right.
Cool.
So, yeah, there's a ton of stuff that goes into, I put a lot of time and energy into interviews and try to make those go well. I spent a lot of time up front working on those question lists, and we actually have a pretty good set that we kind of reuse and just modify a little bit. And one of the things I like to do is give them first half of a sentence as a starter sometimes. And I'll say, this is important to me because, so then repeat that back and then you can finish the sentence however you want to. Or another favorite of mine is like, what are 3 words you would use? Just 1 word answers. This one I will give them 3 words. What are 3 words you would use to describe either it's this person, this company, this experience, whatever it is? What are those 3 words? And it'll take a little time. I'm like, you can think about it. But 3 words, don't expound on them. And they're like, and they'll come up with, and sometimes it's just the process of thinking and feeling and processing. And maybe you use them, sometimes you don't, and it's, anyway, there's a lot of thought and strategy and that can go into doing great interviews. But anyway,
yeah.
Anything else? This has been great. It's been a lot of fun. I love seeing your process and projects you're working on, and hope your post stuff goes well and what you're continuing to work on, and we survive the quarantine and come out on the other side and keep on working.
Yeah. I was trying to show you something real quick. If I can find it super quick. Keep talking. I'm trying to find it. See if I can find it quick. Where is it? I don't know. Hold on. Almost there. I know the order it was posted in. Almost found it. Come on. Oh, goodness. My bad.
What are you looking for?
Well, I was looking for a photo, but let's see. This will work. This is close enough. This is a good news thing, right?
Yes.
So hold on. See that lady right there?
Wait, you drug it off the screen. I'm looking at your
Oh, wrong screen. Hey, there we go.
There she's back.
Not me. I'll take me off of there. Just 21 years today. I was looking for our wedding.
Hey, man.
Yeah, 21st wedding anniversary today. So we're not going out. So I'll find something from the pantry to 21st, wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
So good day.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Well, have a great time. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time, and keep going strong, my man.
Yeah, you too.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Go check out those kids in there, man.
Yeah, I know. I gotta go check on them.
All right. See ya.
Take care.